There is a silence that exists in the world that is different. It's not the peaceful quiet of a morning before the world wakes up. It's not the comfortable silence between two people who know each other deeply. This silence is heavy. It has weight. It presses in on you from all sides until you feel you might just disappear into it. I know this silence intimately now. I hear it in the mornings, when I make tea for one. I hear it in the afternoons, when the sun stretches long shadows across an empty living room. But I hear it the loudest at dinner time. You see, I raised him alone, my son, Leo, and now I eat alone. This is my story. It's not a story I ever thought I'd tell. It's a story of macaroni art and scraped knees, of late-night worries and triumphant graduations. It's a story of a love so fierce, it was my very heartbeat for 30 years. And it's a story of how that love became a weapon used against me. I want to take you back, not to the end, but to the beginning, to the days when the silence was filled with the beautiful, chaotic noise of a boy's life. His father left when Leo was just 3, said the weight of responsibility was too heavy for his shoulders. So it was just us, just Leo and me against the world. I worked 2 jobs, a secretary by day, a typist by night. My world revolved around the simple, monumental task of keeping him safe, fed, and happy. I remember so clearly the sound of his little feet running down the hallway, the crash of his toy cars, the endless stream of why questions. I remember the feel of his small, warm hand in mine as we crossed the street, the weight of his sleeping head on my shoulder after he'd fallen asleep on the couch. Those were hard years, yes, exhausting, but they were also full. My life was a symphony, and he was every single instrument. There was one night, he must have been 7. He had a terrible fever. I was sitting by his bed, a cold cloth on his forehead, worrying as mothers do. He opened his eyes, glassy with sickness, and looked right at me. He said, "Mommy, when I'm big, I'm going to build you a giant house, and I'll never, ever leave you." I kissed his forehead and whispered, "You are my house, my sweet boy. You are my home," and I meant it, every word. I sacrificed for him, gladly. I wore the same winter coat for 5 years, so he could have new shoes. I skipped meals, telling him I'd already eaten, so he could have a second helping. I spent my evenings helping him with homework. I barely understood myself. Every decision, every breath was for him, and I never, for a single second, regretted it. Seeing him smile, seeing him succeed, that was my reward. That was everything. He grew into a fine young man, smart, kind-hearted. He got into a good university. The day I dropped him off at his dorm, my heart felt like it was both breaking and bursting with pride. The silence in the car on the drive home was new. It was the first hint of the silence to come, but I filled it with the sound of his future, a brilliant, shining future. Then he met Chloe. In the beginning, I was happy for him. She was bright, ambitious, beautiful. She came from a family with money, with connections, a world away from our simple, love-filled apartment. I saw the way he looked at her, like she hung the moon, and I thought, good, he's found his person. But slowly, so slowly, it was almost imperceptible at first, the tide began to turn. Our Sunday phone calls, once a sacred ritual, became shorter. "Sorry, Mom, we're busy." Chloe's family has a thing. The things became more and more frequent. Our weekly dinners became monthly, then sporadic. He started to change. His opinions, his tastes, even the way he spoke began to mirror hers and her family's. He started making comments. Little things. We were at his new apartment, a sleek, modern place Chloe's father helped them get. I was telling a story about his childhood, about the time he tried to cut his own hair before picture day. Chloe laughed, a light, tinkling sound. "Oh, Leo, thank goodness you have better taste now." And Leo, my Leo, just shrugged and said, "Yeah, Mom's never been great with that sort of thing. We just made do. We just made do." The words landed like a soft, dull knife. That "we" didn't include me anymore. It was him and Chloe. I was on the outside, looking in at the life I had helped build. The wedding was the next turning point. It was a grand, lavish affair. I felt like a ghost in my own son's story. Chloe's mother took over all the planning, my suggestions, my role. It all seemed to fade into the background. I was seated at the family table, but I felt like a guest, a distant guest. The final dance of the night was for the mother and son. As we swayed on the dance floor, he held me close. "Thanks for everything, Mom. I love you. I love you too, my boy." I whispered into his shoulder, tears in my eyes. "More than you'll ever know." I didn't know it then, but that was our goodbye. Not a real goodbye, but a goodbye to the way things were. A goodbye to the us that had existed for 30 years. After the wedding, the silence truly began. The phone stopped ringing altogether. My invitations additions to their home felt like polite obligations, which I soon stopped accepting to spare myself the pain. I saw him become a stranger, dressed in my son's skin. The climax, the moment the blade was truly twisted, came on a Tuesday. An ordinary Tuesday. The sun was shining. I was sorting through some old boxes in the attic, finding his baby clothes, his first storybook. I was surrounded by the physical proof of our life together, and I felt a longing. So deep it was a physical ache. I decided to call him. Maybe I could suggest a lunch, just the two of us, for old time's sake. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, Mom." His voice was distant, distracted. I could hear Chloe talking in the background. "Hi, sweetheart. I was just thinking, it's been so long since we caught up. Maybe we could have lunch this week?" There was a pause, a long one. I could hear him covering the phone, a muffled conversation. My heart started to beat a little faster. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. He came back on the line. Yeah, this week is crazy. Chloe and I are, well, we're really busy." "Oh," I said, my voice small. "Maybe next week?" Another pause. Then he took a breath, and he said the words that shattered my world. "Mom, look, I think we need to establish some healthier boundaries. We feel that your expectations are a bit heavy. You have your own life. You need to let me live mine." Boundaries, expectations, heavy. Each word was a nail. I couldn't breathe. The room, filled with the treasures of his childhood, seemed to spin. All I could manage was a whisper. "My expectations were that my son would love me." "Of course I love you, Mom," he said, his voice impatient now. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's emotional. It's a lot. Just give us some space, okay?" And he hung up. I sat there on the dusty attic floor, surrounded by the evidence of a lifetime of love, and I felt it. The final, definitive click. The door closing, not just on a conversation, but on me, on his mother. He didn't choose between me and his wife. He had already chosen. This was just him, telling me I was no longer welcome in the country I had spent my life building for him. I was alone. The days that followed were a blur of grief. It was like a death, but worse, because he was still out there, living, breathing, just without me. The pain was a physical thing, a hollowed-out space in my chest. But then, something shifted inside me. The grief didn't disappear, but it hardened. It turned into a cold, clear realization. This was not about me being a heavy mother. This was betrayal, a profound, unforgivable ingratitude. The one person I had trusted with my whole heart had handed it back to me, broken, and I decided I would not spend my remaining years as a ghost, haunting the empty spaces of my own life. If he wanted me out of his life, then I would go, but I would take my life with me. This was not a revenge of anger. It was a revenge of reclamation. My revenge would be to live, and to live well. The first thing I did was take a long, hard look at my finances. For 30 years, every spare penny had gone into a savings account for him, for his future, for a down payment on a house, for his children. It was a significant amount. Money I had scrimped and saved, a monument to my love. That Monday, I went to the bank. I transferred every last cent into a new account, in my name only. Then, I did something I hadn't done in 30 years. I booked a trip, a solo tour of Tuscany, something I had always dreamed of. Next, I sold our old apartment, the one filled with all the echoes. I used the money to buy a small, bright cottage by the sea, a place with no memories, a place that was just for me. I got a library card. I joined a gardening club. I started painting, badly but joyfully. I made new friends. I slowly, painstakingly, built a new symphony for myself, a quieter one, yes, but it was mine. I never called him again. I never sent a guilt-tripping text. I simply let him have the silence he had asked for. It was the most powerful thing I could do. It has been a year now. The silence in my new home is different. It's not the heavy, waiting silence of before. It's a peaceful one, a chosen one. Tonight, I made myself ossobuco. It's a fancy recipe, one I'd always been too busy or too frugal to try. The smell fills my little house. I set my table with a nice linen cloth, a single porcelain plate, and a crystal glass of red wine. I light a candle. As I sit down to eat, I look at the empty space across from me, and for the first time, I don't see an absence. I see a presence, my own. I am no longer the mother who raised him alone. I am the woman who survived. I am the woman who learned, far too late, that the most important person you can ever build a home for is yourself. I raised him alone, and now I eat alone, but the meaning of that sentence has changed. It is no longer a cry of despair. It is a statement of fact. It is my reality, and I have made my peace with it. If you are listening to this, Perhaps you are in a similar pain. Perhaps you have given your all to someone, only to be told it was too much. Perhaps you are sitting at an empty table, listening to the silence. I cannot tell you what to do. I can only tell you my story. The love for a child is the most powerful force on earth, but it should be a shelter, not a cage, for them or for you. My revenge was not to hurt him back. My revenge was to stop allowing his choices to hurt me. My revenge was to find a way to love the life I had left. He may never know the woman I have become. He may never see this cottage by the sea, or taste my ossobuco, or know the peace I have fought so hard to find. And that is his loss. It is the greatest loss of all. The table is set, the food is warm, the silence is mine, and finally, after all this time, I am home.